Welcome to Families for Life with Bryan and Brian, a podcast of Oak Hill Baptist Church.
On today's episode, we are talking about Friendship Deepening, Part 1, Practical Steps.
Welcome back.
All right.
Brian.
It's good to be back, man. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. That's good.
Welcome to all of our listeners.
Yep.
We are excited to be here today, and we are on the eve of you getting ready to have your baby at some point. Well, your wife.
Yes, not me. I know.
I use the term we, and people get so mad, like, you're not the one having the baby. I get that,
we're all over
a
the
team.
Place on the map anymore.
The Bible says two shall become one.
Amen. That's right.
So we are one.
Yeah.
We are having a baby.
How does your wife? Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
ask her.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. No, yeah.
Your wife is having a baby soon.
Very soon. Maybe today. I don't know. We'll find out. And so
however the Lord wills.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. I'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
And things are good. I love the weather that's getting a little bit warmer. We can be outside more. I got to start doing yard work.
You've been working on your house some. How's that going?
That's going well. I'm going to take a renocation.
Yes.
Which is basically just our spring break, but I got to focus intensely on getting my project like really far down the road.
Upward's almost over. Actually, I think while this episode comes out, Upward will be over, right?
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good.
That's wild.
I had a great season.
Yeah.
So. And I need to get out and do yard work. I have to compete with all the other dads in the neighborhood. I can't let my lawn fall behind.
I know. My dogs have been destroying my yard, and I'm like, no. So yeah, it's time.
You're an official dad when you care about the lawn like
so much.
My neighbor was out today doing stuff in his yard. Yeah, I was like, he's beating me to the yard.
True, I know.
It's like, I got to do it too. Got to give me some fresh white New Balances to get out there, turn them suckers green. Anyway,
that's awesome.
All right, so we're almost done with the friendship series.
Yes,
So we got 2 episodes here that it's kind of like a part 1, part 2 of the same thing here.
That's right. Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the why, how, what, like all of that stuff. We talked about planning, how to make a plan, what you're supposed to be thinking through when it comes to friendships. And now we're talking about how to do it, like practically, what do you actually do in order to make friendships or to deepen friendships that you already have.
Right.
And so our resource, this is right from our resource. It's been such a helpful thing, such a small book. Highly encourage you to get it. It's called How Should We Develop Biblical Friendship by Dr. Haken and Joel Beakey. And so definitely check that out. And they have these 10 really simple, practical steps that when you read at first, you're just kind of like, duh, but you have to think through it and ask yourself, am I actually doing this?
Yeah, and that's what's good about this is it forces you to kind of think through it, because I think we all would say, I want friends, I want to be a good friend. We would all say all of those things, but to actually do it, it requires a little bit of thought.
Yeah.
Some of it comes naturally, but I think if we want to do it right and well, like anything else, there has to be some sort of cognitive and mental, spiritual, emotional engagement.
And
That's what we're...
Yeah, and some things that you can look at and really diagnose whether or not it's happening.
Yeah.
You can, when you hear these things, you're going to be able to think about, like, is that even happening between me and other people I know?
Right.
Am I trying to do this?
Yes. Yes.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about some of these things. The first one, and probably the most obvious thing, is you have to actually talk together. You cannot build a friendship without communication. You've got to talk, right?
Well, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier, is just you have to be around the person, and being around them is not just... when we said proximity, we didn't mean like you literally are just around that person, but you are around them to where you're engaging with them.
That's right. Yeah. And so what we realize is that, the thing that I find with students, especially because they're really trying to learn this for the first time, because they're moving out of this stage of everyone's my friend to not everyone's my friend. How do I do this? And what's so funny is they don't think about the fact that they have to start to talk.
Right.
So like what that means is if you want friends, you have to begin the conversation. You got to be willing to start.
Right. And there's a mutual sharing of information,
Right.
personal details, things about your life. It happens at church. It's at different jobs that I've had. There are some people you become closer to than others because they're willing to share with you and you're willing to share with them.
That's right.
There's other people that for whatever reason, maybe your personalities don't match up or you just don't get a chance to really talk to them, and you don't really become friends because you don't share those details. You're more of the acquaintances.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So if they're not talking back, that's why it's these things go both ways.
Yeah.
And so you have to, you throw it out there, you start it, but it has to come back. But another thing about this is what you're talking about. So like, you want to talk about important things, spiritual things, things that matter, but also things that don't matter, like
Right.
things that you think are funny. I mean, that's one of the things we actually do for this podcast is we actually get in here and just kind of talk about random stuff that don't really matter.
Right.
Before we start talking about the things that do.
Yeah. I think one really important factor in this, and to help determine if you are friends or acquaintances or where you kind of fall in that spectrum that we talked about last week is, is there a mutual sort of interest in each other? One of my pet peeves is when you meet with someone and they don't ask you about yourself. It's always a one-sided conversation. And it's hard to be friends with somebody if it's a one-sided, if you're always asking about their life, talking about their life, and they dictate the conversation,
Right.
and it never is reciprocated.
I think that's a good point. And I think like if you're looking at the serious parts of conversation and the non-serious kind of the fun, just whatever parts of conversation, if people aren't willing to go back and forth between
Right.
those or to share in that, then like for instance, if somebody only wants to have serious conversations or get your input about things, but they don't want to talk about what you're doing on the weekend, like,
Right.
okay, that's a limiting factor. And so if
You're
you're
more
not,
like a coworker or an acquaintance or
Right,
something,
right.
not a friend. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So talking together is really important, and it's got to be something that's not interrupted by other things. You can't try to only talk via text messaging. You can't only talk it has to be something eventually, and we've talked about this before, but ultimately this is something that needs to happen in person without distractions.
Yeah, it
right?
takes time.
That's exactly. So that's the first one. What's the next one, Brian?
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's listen together. If you talk together, you've got to listen to the other person. And one of the things that for whatever reason, people have these different personalities. Some people are really good at listening. Some people are really good at talking. Normally, it's hard to find where it happens. Somebody's good at both of them.
Right.
And so you got to determine which of these areas do you struggle in, and then how do you overcome that?
Yeah. I think that's super important. Like just knowing yourself, because as you're thinking about building friendships, talking to somebody, listening, you're going to have to compensate on one side or the other. You're going to have to work on one more than the other, probably. And I know for me, listening, I literally have to tell myself to shut up, like, stop talking, Brian, and so I have to stop and just even if there's some silence, and just let it happen.
Yeah.
And because people have to think about what they're trying to say. They can't, some people are pretty fast. They already know what they're thinking and they're ready to go, but not everybody's like that. You have to give people enough time to form their thoughts and then to actually say them,
Yes, exactly.
So I think we've got to listen to people, which means we've got to be quiet. We've got to try to figure out who the person is, Sometimes, do you think it's easy to just listen to what they're saying, just to hear what they're saying, instead of knowing who they are? What do you think? Do you think there's a distinction between those two? Like if you are listening to somebody, you can listen just to get what they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're talking about listening and actual hearing.
Yes,
and being engaged with what they're saying. Yeah. No, I definitely think that listening is more than just hearing information. You're
Right.
thinking about the subtext. You're thinking about the feelings and emotions that go into it. Why, as a true friend, when your friend says something, you're not just taking in information. You're saying, why are they saying this? Why are they telling me this? What is behind that? Because it could be something that they're sharing that they're frustrated with.
Right. Yeah.
And they may not some people don't want you to fix their problems all the time. They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Or they might say, yes, help me, with this, help me think through this issue or problem. Then you can offer suggestions, and things like that. But you have to listen really well to know, and you have to know your friend as to what they're wanting.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because if you're not listening carefully, then you might think that they want a certain response from you that they don't want.
Right.
And you might not actually be figuring out who the person is. You're just trying to problem solve and move on, which is not being a good friend.
Yeah. Good. Some people don't like that. So you have to ask them, okay, are we in the listening phase or in the problem solving phase of this,
I mean, I literally ask that sometimes, like you said, if I can't tell.
You ask, do you want my thoughts or something like that? You've said that to me before.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you what I think?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. So let's say you're not very good at listening. Maybe you are struggling with this. How do you overcome that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to, you've just got to be there present and be able to start asking questions, and thinking through, okay, how do I want to be listened to? And then what would I want somebody to ask me or share with me? And then how I can reciprocate.
You mean
that.
Treat others the way you would like to be
exactly.
treated? Whoa, okay, that's great. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And I actually, even, as a pastor, this is something that I have to come into like a Sunday morning or something, and I'm dealing with students. And it's really hard to engage in conversations sometimes. Yeah. And I've found that the simple fix is have some good questions. They can even be generic questions, but just become ready with like 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah, I think that's part of what the Bible says when it says be quick to listen and slow to speak. I think part of that is collecting information, because when like, for instance, when I sit down in a counseling situation, somebody will initially share some information with me, and that may take 5 or 10 or 20 minutes, but I can't just automatically go off of that information. I've got to ask, okay, what about this? How did you feel about this? What about this situation? Because oftentimes there is a deeper conversation that needs to happen. It's the same thing in friendship.
Yeah.
If you ask questions to get a fuller picture, then you can understand what they're going through and how to help them.
Yeah, and that keeps you from assuming things too.
Yeah.
Like asking questions and reminding yourself, I don't know, instead of thinking, oh, I know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
You say, I don't know what they're thinking, so let me ask them some questions.
Exactly.
And that helps a lot.
So talk, listen. What's the third thing?
We've got to serve together. This is where, this is kind of, I think of like the band of brothers sort of thing. This is where you get into the trenches of ministry with one another. And you get to know, like, I'm thinking about you and me on mission trips, and like some of the things that we've had to do and how quickly we figure out each other's personality through that and doing things together, experiencing the hardships of that, experiencing the triumphs of that. And it just kind of gets you, it helps meld you together in a bond that you can't really understand. But I think, there's a lot of ministries that people can just find and jump into, right? I think, here's a shameless plug, like our church, we've got a chair team ministry, and we need people who can jump in and be a part of that. And sometimes, it's not fun putting up chairs, but somebody's got to do it. And why not do it with some people that you can enjoy hanging out with and have fun putting up chairs together. It's no fun doing it by yourself.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I think it's important that you have shared experiences with your friend, and this can be with your wife, your children. I mean, you ultimately are cultivating a friendship with your wife. You're wanting to cultivate a friendship with your children as they get older, and then just other people in your life.
Yeah.
You have to have shared experiences, and that can be, one of the greatest ways can be through serving together, doing ministry together. I mean, the Lord has called us to do good works in his name.
Yeah.
To go out and to make disciples and share the gospel. Why not do that with people you like being around and enjoy being around with your friends?
Yeah. So you think that this, like, serving together is something that would be like good for families to do? Like,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've seen some
Is that a
families.
rhetorical question?
No. No, that was me. Giving
No,
you a
I do
softball.
think I do think at the appropriate age, and level, it is very helpful.
Yeah.
Because once again, shared experiences are good, and not just, when I say that, a lot of families think about, and even friends think about just doing like fun, enjoyable things together.
Right. Yeah.
Like, let's go on vacation. Let's go to the pool together.
Yeah.
Let's do those type of things.
No, yeah, that's a great point. I actually remember some of the things I remember the most are some of the hardest things that, like, me and my family did together. We we would go split wood together, and I remember that, and it was hard, but it was also fun.
Yeah,
like,
enjoyment is a part of it. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I mean, there is a place for that, but also challenging, adversity, shared experiences are also very bonding.
But it's because you're together that it becomes fun. Like it's the very fact that you're together. Like, doing it by yourself isn't fun, but when you have other people together, that's when it becomes enjoyable, even if it's extremely difficult.
Right.
Like, think of any mission trip or any service project you've ever done. When you've got people, you're doing it together, and you're doing it for the right reasons. Oh man, it's a joy. And here's the thing: if you're like, I don't know of any ministry to jump into to do, well, start one. Like, think about the things that you are passionate about, and if there's something that you feel God is calling you to do, don't be like, hey, church, you need to make this happen. Like, you're a part of the church, you can start that. Get some people to join in with you. So we've got to serve together, and those shared experiences build a lot of camaraderie and friendship. But as we're doing that, we've kind of alluded to this already. Yeah. What's another thing that we need to
just enjoy life together. I mean, this is the part where you do have the opportunity to do things that are fun or things that you like together, and whether it's, I've got a buddy that we go to the range and shoot guns.
Yeah.
And he's really skilled at it, and so he gives me tips, and we hang out, and it's one of those things that is just like a something we just enjoy.
Yeah.
There's other people that you may go on vacation with, or you may just go to the swimming pool with, like I said, and those things are good. I mean, it's good to enjoy life together and do things that you enjoy.
Well, one of the things you and I keep talking about is wanting to go bike riding. Like, we both have mountain bikes, and we want to, we're
doing it
super skilled, but no, we want to go just start that because we've never, done that together, and that'd be something fun to enjoy.
Right.
This is something that I think families, try to do, but I think, in order to do this, sometimes you have to invite people to come be a part of your hobby. And sometimes you have to go be a part of their hobby. Maybe it's something that your friend likes to do, that you've never done before. And so the only way to enjoy it is to try it, right? And so we've got to kind of put ourselves out there a little bit. And really what this is talking about is just having fun. Like, friends have fun together. We do that. I think about, like, the disciples in Jesus. And, when you're reading the Bible, you can tell that these guys were just living normal life together. And you have to look into that a little bit, and we want to be careful doing that. We don't want to, read into scripture too much. But that's why I like The Chosen, because I think that they try to draw out the real life friendships between Jesus and his disciples. And there's a lot of funny things that happen in that, because that's the way friendship works.
Right, what naturally happens, yeah. Yeah, I think it's about shared experiences. Both of the number 3 and number 4 are really kind of about spending that time together and experiencing the same thing. We are bonded with those people that we went on the mission trip to Jamaica with, so that's a shared experience that, it's kind of like we have that. It's not a secret necessarily, but like no one else knows what we experienced and how that we share pictures. We try. We can tell people, but no one was there except for the people that were there.
Right.
No one knows about how hard we worked, and
and that's some of that was hard and sad. You have to share. So part of enjoying life together is also being in the sad parts together,
right. Mm-hmm.
And so all of that goes together. But the big thing about this, I think, is you just don't have any other motive other than just enjoying things with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not trying to get something out of the other person. There's no selfishness involved. There's no
right.
motive.
Mm-hmm.
You're just hanging out, and having fun.
Yep.
So for our today's episode, our last point for today is this. This is where I think friendship goes from some of the more normal, obvious things to some of the deeper things. This is where like deep friendship really, you start seeing some of this happening. And I think number 5 shows us that you have to think together.
Yeah, I think real friends will share. It's interesting because I think about this whenever you're with acquaintances, you are constantly filtering yourself, or at least I am.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, if I say what I'm thinking, what is this person going to think? And around a friend, you can, around a true friend, you can know, okay, I can say what's on my mind. I can share my feelings and thoughts, and they understand and will hear that. You can be more vulnerable with your inner thoughts.
I think that is absolutely true. And, I'm just thinking about some of the best friends that I've had, throughout my life. And what I've enjoyed the most is not that we think exactly the same thoughts.
Yeah.
It's that I can trust them with my thoughts. Like you're saying, I'm even telling them what I'm thinking, knowing that if I were to say it around somebody else, I'd be super embarrassed. But because I'm with my friend, we're able to talk about or think about these crazy things out loud, because I want to know what they think,
right.
and I want them to help me shape what I'm thinking. And this is where you're really letting yourself be influenced.
Right.
So this is why, this should not happen with people that aren't close friends. You know what I mean? You should be careful how much you think out loud with each other and let them shape your thoughts if you don't really know who they are.
Yeah.
So,
well, you can only know that through a mutual understanding, and to have a true friend, it's got to be, okay, we can share, we can agree to disagree.
Yes.
We can think and process. There's things that somebody says and you're like, and I've started to do this more recently because I just need and want more. I think there's wisdom in taking time. There's no rush in trying to take in new information and let it change you. It's like, okay, thank you for, somebody will tell me something about myself or something about what they believe. Okay, thank you for letting me know that. Let me process that. Let me think through that. And then I can have time to come back and say, instead of just off the cuff shooting back an answer, which I've been guilty of a lot in the past,
Well, I think that some of that's just totally natural. I know I really struggle with that. I have to tell myself, I have to focus on the fact that I need other people's thoughts, and I need correction at times. I need that. Because when that happens, your first thought is, I don't need this, that's your reaction. So you have to kind of be telling yourself that. And then, what I love, like really probably like one of my very best friends, is just this really, really smart guy. And we have debated about things a lot, and we have had these conversations about what does the Bible mean when it says this and what it says that. And I remember there were times where he just flat out asked me, I was reading something, and he was like, do you know what that means? And I wanted to be like, yeah, absolutely, I know what this means. But he like just caught me, and I was like, dang it, I don't know what this means. But it was because he was my friend. He wasn't like like, oh, you're an idiot because you don't know what this means. He was helping me grow.
Yeah, that's the difference. A friend is not trying to be like winning in a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like if you're, I remember when I was in Bible college, guys would debate in the hallways and debate all of these type of things. And it was always to try to win. And so like, that's not true friendship,
No, that's right. And
true friendship is trying to help you to grow and understand and not like shove it in your face,
And sometimes it happens through debate, but it's just a different kind of debating, and it's a really healthy and it can be really fun. Actually.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, and this I think guys are maybe guilty of this, maybe more, I don't know, but we never get past the surface.
Yeah.
We don't like or want to talk about difficult things, but I think the Christian man needs to be able to open up and share what he's thinking with another Christian brother.
I think that's what you see. And when you look at history, you see in Christendom, the greatest Christian men were the ones who wanted to think with their friends. I mean, that's just, I think of like Augustine and just the thinker that he was, and how he did that with his friends and with other people. And that's Jesus. He was like that with his disciples. And so that's how we want to be as well. So those are the first 5 of the practical steps that you can be taking. And so be thinking about that, talking together, listening together, serving together, enjoying life together, and thinking together. And as we wrap this up, we always want to make sure we're thinking about our families in this. What are some other ways, we've talked about a little bit, what are some other ways you think this applies to our families?
I think this has great crossover to our families. All of these things we should be investing in with our wives. We've talked, we've not been, I don't know, what's the word? We've been very open with sharing that we feel like our wives are our best friends.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's important in a married couple, to invest in each other, not just as partners raising children or as lovers, or, we have to invest as friends.
Yeah.
And sharing together of life, of mutual experiences, of thoughts, of feelings, of talking, of listening. All of these things carry over very much
directly
to our marital relationships. And then as our kids get older, these things, we've talked a little bit about this in the past, where you transition your sort of parenting from, hands-on to more like coaching, you're still hands-on as they get into teenage years, and you can do a little bit more of this. I want to caution parents, because I don't want them to think like I'm friends with my child. I don't want to get into that. But in one sense, as they get older, you do want a friendship to sort of blossom, because like my wife is probably like best friends with her mom. Do you know what I'm saying? And so there's not a day that goes by that they don't talk, probably multiple times or text or something. And so that's different for me, because, if I talk to my parents, once a month, like I'm good.
Right. Yeah, I know. And that might be a little bit of the guy versus girl thing. Yeah.
But they definitely have a true like friendship, because they have invested in one another, and they have these same sort of things and qualities. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely right. And, I love with the parent-child relationship, thinking about this, I agree. I don't want parents to be like, yeah, we're just friends. No, you are a parent. And but I think that what we make this false dichotomy, as if you don't have a friendship with your kid because you're this parent, you have to tell. But then, it's like, it's not one or the other all the time. It can be both. And you have to wear those hats, a little differently depending on the situation. And, even if you got like this little kid, like you need to be talking to your little kid and letting them think out loud. I mean, their thoughts are crazy, but I'm just thinking about my 3-year-old kid. His thoughts are insane, but I love them,
Yeah. And we have to teach them how to be a good friend. You know, if this is something that if they learn this, on their own, it will become sort of like misformed, misshapen, because it will happen through experiences with other children.
Right.
Naturally. But then also we've got to help them think through, okay, how do you be a good friend?
That's
It's like, okay, even when they're little, it's like, okay, you have to share your toys.
Right.
I remember my son, when we would have life group, he would gather up his toys and like lay on them because he didn't want any of the other kids playing with his toys. He would literally just like lay on them. Like, you're not playing with them. You're just covering them up. And I said, they're here for an hour or two and then they're going to go home. And so why not spend that hour or two playing with them, and then when they leave, all of these toys are still yours. So it's like helping him think through, like, these kids are just wanting to come play with you with these toys.
You're literally having to teach him how to enjoy life with other people, and that's one of our practical steps. And we have to help them with that, and we have to make sure that we're trying to live that out ourselves. Because if we're not, then we're we're not going to be able to help them.
That's
either.
right.
So. All right, well, those are our first 5. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about the last 5, and then we will be done with our Finding Friendship series. So
hopefully you're an expert on friendship by now.
Yes, that's right. My friendships are so much better now. Well, I do.
All you got to do is live it out. It's easier said than done.
That's exactly right. Yep. All right, well, thanks everyone for listening.
And we'll see you next time. Go for the world record and do 3 podcasts.
Nobody's ever done this.
Nobody's ever done it. I'm going to call Guinness Book of World Records.
Never attempted.
Get 3 podcasts done in one sitting.
Let's do it.
Let's stay focused. We got to stay focused. Listen, we need, like they have pre-workout, we need pre-podcast. We need to like take a
pre-podcast shake.
Yeah. That way you can like be in focus. We got to stay focused. We got 3 podcasts. Come on.